On to this now. Some long-distance bus operators have expressed frustration at alleged police inaction following a rise in attacks on drivers and passengers in recent years. The operators have listed over 150 cases of murder, intimidation, destruction of property and injuries in 3 provinces. The Western Cape appears to be leading in acts of violence. Taxi associations have reportedly denied any mafia-style acts of intimidation and extortion leveled against them. Joining us now to update on the situation is the executive manager of the Southern African Bus Operators Association, Bazil Govender. Bazil, good evening, and thank you very much for your time and for joining us tonight on In Focus. Is this a work of internal sectoral fights for routes? Is this a deliberate sabotage from other transport operators not in the bus sector? Or is this opportunistic crime of maybe some syndicates that are targeting interprovincial bus operators? Or maybe a combination of all those?
Good evening, Tabo. Yes, and thank you for the opportunity, and good evening to your viewers as well. Tabo, yeah, I think we need to elevate it to just interprovincial buses, because to answer your question, I would say that's a combination of all 3, because there is really a systematic and coordinated attack. And I think for context, Tabo, yes, the 165 incidences that you make reference to that have been highlighted predominantly in the interprovincial sector. But SABOA, as a recognized association, represents the bus and coach industry at large in the country. And I think for context, for you and the viewers, the industry comprises of contracted commuter services operating on behalf of government, intercity, long distance, scholar contracts, the tour charter services, and then there's a host of commercial contracts. I can tell you that as an industry which is one of the most regulated and compliant, every sector is under attack, Thabo. A lot of this goes under the radar from a reporting point of view, but it is across the country. It is not specific to those 3 provinces. It's rural, it's urban, it's in the light of day, it's in the dark of night. These attacks are unfolding at an alarming rate, and the costs are escalating. But it certainly does appear to be a coordinated approach to try and get the bus industry on its knees. And thankfully the industry is resilient, but it has been at a huge loss, Tabo, over the years.
What are some of the behaviors that are happening, those that go reported, and particularly those that go unreported? And have you looked into why they are not being reported, or at least underreported?
Well, yeah, therein lies the major challenge and frustration, but it ranges widely, from intimidation to interference to disruption to downright illegal instances of apparent policing and enforcement by non-authorized entities. And of recent, there's a high increase in incidences of extortion under the guise of having to provide protection. And these are all done by unscrupulous individuals and groups. Yes, there's an element of crime to it, which has been capitalized on. Sporadic incidences and targeted incidences of criminals getting on bus and holding up all the passengers and the commuters. Excuse me. So, and it's not specific to a particular, if I can just give you a throw on some of the main routes or sectors that we call them that are affected. Joburg, Limpopo, and return is the intercity and long distance. Park Station and the Musina areas, that's the border and cross-border operations. Free State to Lesotho is again cross-border. In the Western Cape, we've got commuter, scholar, intercity, cross-border. In Mpumalanga, pretty much the same. KZN, intercity and commuter services. And in the Northwest and Limpopo, some elements of commercial contracts coming under siege. So the modus operandi seems to be to want to get the buses to stop operating sufficiently so that commuters don't have any other choice. There are no other options from buses but to move on to other modes. Now, having said that, Thabo, it's easy to say it's an intersectoral thing, but I think you've highlighted it early on. There's elements of coordination between criminal gangs, intermodal stress and strife, and then ultimately within some of the more deeper rural areas, there might be competition amongst operators themselves that are trying to all vie for the market share, which is dwindling, and pre-COVID was declining, but I think COVID's had a major impact. So around market share, there's a serious challenge around sustainability for all modes, but that's a bigger integrated transport network problem which government needs to deal with.
Have you had a sit around the table in terms of plans of responding to the acts of violence, similar to that of the taxi sector, where you speak of what are the interventions, what kind of support you could give to your members, and what recommendations are coming out of there?
Some of the biggest challenge comes in the alignment of the various inter and various tiers of governments. We're just not getting the support. Outside of the matters being reported and cases opened, and that's where it ends, Thabo. Numerous cases opened. Of recent, slow traction. We tabled or we mooted the idea of a violence avoidance strategy at NEDLAC early last year through other discussions around COVID, and it's an overarching principle. You can't target this from one aspect only. You've got to include public order, protesting, and destruction into this. So it's a violence avoidance strategy we're trying to craft. But I must admit, given all the other challenges we have in the country, the incongruence between government departments and getting alignment is a real challenge. And then when you drop it down a tier to provincial and municipal and district, it gets even more frustrating to deal with. Of recent, and we tabled, it was a core issue on our Sabawa Industry Conference last week. The minister was the keynote speaker. He unfortunately did not stay the entire conference, but he did indicate that our resolutions will be sent to him and he will engage. I was led to believe that on Sunday night that a cluster meeting for security and the Department of Transport would have taken place, and I supplied some of this information in a lot more detail, but unfortunately that meeting got postponed. So we wait with bated breath, but we really need government and the different clusters to come to the table. This issue is not going away, and in terms of the key urgent actions we are seeking is an immediate centralized reporting line so we can collate data and have facts to speak from. And there is a task team being mooted, and we would hope that the industry is onboarded right from the inception and all other stakeholders, and that the task team gets given the proper mandate.
Yeah.
But having said that, in the last month or two, SAPS, through their representative that has been appointed to deal with us, seems to be on board and willing. So we're just waiting to hear from the minister and his team how we can take the next steps, Thabo.
Bazil Govender, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on. Executive Manager of the Southern African Bus Operators Association. Keep a close eye on this, of course, and those deliberations that you're having with government, and get some feedback coming out of there.